insisted on probation. What we have not said is that they should be scrapped. We have put forward a series of suggestions which we believe will strengthen the role of police and crime commissioners, but also strengthen accountability. It's clear that some commissioners have fallen short of the public's expectations in the hiring of deputies, in the failure to act in the public's interest as far as removal of chief constables are concerned. But we think that with the proposals that we've put forward, give them a transition period between election and taking office so they can be properly trained, give the crime panels the opportunity to scrutinise them effectively, make sure that they are more accessible to the public. A lot of the commissioners have done some good work in ensuring that this has happened. And then you will have a system that works extremely well. So I'm sorry to use another cliche, but the jury's still out. But the important thing is, what we have not said is that they get rid of them. We actually think that they ought to be allowed the opportunity of making it better. I think there are many examples of good commissioners.
So you were in favour of them before?
I wasn't, no.
Okay, so you've sworn more sympathetic towards them since then?
I have, but I think the issue of turnout, the issue of the lack of accountability in some areas, what we saw in Lincolnshire, where the chief constable was removed and reinstated by the High Court, insisting that they should have targets. We're worried about targets because if you force people to have targets, then there's a risk that they might try and give you statistics that are not particularly accurate. And there's other things to be done.
You said that many of them are falling short, or some of them are falling short. You could say that to any elected panel of elected politicians. You might say it about Westminster, that some people fall short. I wonder whether that's just par for the course. Some are going to succeed, some are fail, and then the next election, about a month will be put to that.
Well, I think in terms of something new, it's a new concept. Of course, there are going to be expectations that are not being reached. But what we felt was that the way in which the whole thing had been constructed in the first place could have been done much better. It was a bit of a rush job, as you know, the elections were put off initially, and so they took place in November. Turnout was very low. I think more people were looking at sounds impossible. And therefore put into being these changes and give an even better system. But also, the big area of dispute is over the removal of constables. We believe they ought to have the power to do this, but let's be very clear on the grounds on which it's to be done, and let's give the panels, a group of people who are there to scrutinise the commissioner, the opportunity of working with them, and then we can have some real success stories.
Let me interrupt.
Some success stories.
Let me interrupt. I want to bring in here is one of the police and crime commissioners. She Conservative, one from Sussex. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, you've heard the sort of report, the interim report, I suppose what I'd say, because we're a couple more than went through the first term. But what do you make of the 2016?
Well, I welcome the report. It's obviously, and I agree with Mr. Baz when he says it's a progress report rather than a definitive assessment of the model of PCC. But he's also said that there's clear evidence that police and crime commissioners have now provided a greater clarity of leadership for policing within their areas, and they're increasingly being recognised by the public as accountable for the strategic direction of their police force.
Are they? Do you think anyone anywhere in the country can name their police and crime commission?
Well, I think the poll that the BBC commissioned just before Christmas last year showed that 62% of the public were now aware that they had a police and crime commission in their area. And when you compare that with the 7 or 8% that only knew about a police authority, I think that's quite a ringing endorsement.
What about this idea of beefing up a committee who would be overseeing the people who kind of hold the PCCs to account?
I think the police and crime panel in Sussex works very effectively. I mean, I was elected to act accordingly and in the public interest, and that includes appointing and suspending, and if necessary, removing a chief constable if the standards of performance are not being met. I don't believe that the police and crime panel's powers need beefing up further. I think they do have the right amount of powers they need to scrutinise my decisions effectively. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the police and crime panel can also use the media, and they've certainly done that to great effect in Sussex.
Right, what they've tried to use the media to humiliate you, or?
Well, no, just to draw attention to some of the decisions that perhaps, like the one decision in particular I made that they didn't agree with, and that was extremely effective. The result of which has made sure now that we have better forms of communication between my office and the panel as well themselves. So it's very effective where it works.
All right, Katie Bourne, PCC for Sussex, and Keith Faz, Chairman of the Thank you.
3 minutes to 7, time for a weather forecast in New England. Good morning. Really looks as though we will cling on to a little bit of sunshine and warmth, but only in eastern areas today. Bank holiday Monday turns cloudy and wet from the west, I'm afraid. So let's start off with where we'll keep the sunshine across eastern England and southeast England. Chilly start this morning. Temperatures in rural parts have fallen just below freezing in one or two places, so a little bit of light frost around, but some sunshine coming through. That's lifting the temperatures already. We'll keep the sunshine throughout the afternoon, perhaps the cloud becoming a little more hazy, so high cloud through the afternoon. Highs of around 17 to 20 degrees, that's 68 Fahrenheit. A little bit cooler on the south coast with a southerly breeze, and generally for the rest of England and Wales it's a dry, bright start, a bit more cloud on western fringes as we see some rain arriving into northwest England and Wales and the southwest by the afternoon, 13 to 16 degrees the high. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, cloudier, breezier, western areas of Scotland and northwestern parts of Northern Ireland already starting to see some rain. That will continue to the afternoon. Further east it stays a little more shelter, with northwest highs of 11 to 17 degrees.
Thanks, Louise. Tomorrow morning on Radio 4, the Chief Economics Commentator at the Financial Times, Martin Wolf, finds out why the future is not what it used to be.
We used to expect widely shared rises in living standards as each generation improved upon the achievements of the past. Advances in technology suggest this should still be happening. Instead, we worry about the disappearance of good jobs, slow growth and rising inequality. I'll be asking what lies behind these developments and what sort of future lies ahead. That's The Future Is Not What It Used to Be, with me, Martin Wolf, here on BBC Radio 4, tomorrow morning at 9.
And coming up in the next hour on this programme, we'll be hearing the President of Nigeria said it's the first time he's spoken in 3 weeks since Israel has abducted hundreds of girls from a school in the north of the country. We'll be hearing from him. We'll be getting the latest on.
You're listening to Today on Radio 4 with Sarah Montague and Evan Davis. It's 7 o'clock on Monday, the 5th of May. The headlines this morning. Prosecutors in Northern Ireland are to decide whether to press criminal charges against Gerry Adams, who was released from police custody last night after 4 days questioning about an IRA murder. The British tennis player Elena Baltacha has died of liver cancer at the age of 30. And the vampire therapy, which researchers believe could help reverse the effects of aging. The BBC News is read by Charles Campbell. Sinn Féin leader Gerry Adams has accused the police of using pernicious coercive legislation to arrest and detain him in connection with the 1972 murder of Jean McConville. Mr. Adams was released without charge last night, 4 days after he was arrested. The file will be passed to prosecutors, who will decide whether to pursue the case. At a news conference following his release, Mr. Adams stressed that he supported the police service of Northern Ireland, but he said that there was an old guard who were against change within the PSNI leadership. Correspondent Andy Martin watched Mr. Adams being released from Antrim police station.
Gerry Adams had to be smuggled onto the back gate of the Antrim police station amid riot police because an angry loyalist mob had gathered to berate him at the entrance. The murder of Jean McConville stands out among thousands in the Northern Ireland conflict. The murder of 10 was one of a group of people the IRA has admitted to having disappeared. Gerry Adams was accused of ordering her disappearance by one of his former comrades, the now deceased IRA commander Brendan Hughes. Recordings for an academic project by Boston College. The police seized 7 of the interviews from the university which referred to the murder of Jean McConville. Speaking after his release, Mr. Adams acknowledged that charges could still be brought, but he insisted the allegations made against him were spurious.
I am innocent of any involvement in any conspiracy to abduct, kill or bury Mrs. McConville. I have worked hard with others to have different justice redressed and for the return of the bodies of others killed during the conflict and secretly buried by the IRA. I will continue to do so.
The onus is now on the Public Prosecution Service to decide whether to press charges, but its director, Barry McGrory QC, will not make that call, as he's previously represented Jerry Adams. Instead, it's down to his deputy, Pamela Hutchison, who has spent most of her legal career as a prosecutor.
The former British #1 tennis player, Elena Valtaccia, has died at the age of 30. She had liver cancer. Born in Kiev, Valtaccia moved to Britain as a child when her father, an international footballer, signed for Ipswich Town. She reached the Wimbledon third round in 2002 and was in the world's top 50 as recently as 2010. Here's our tennis correspondent, Russell Fuller.
It was 8 years after being diagnosed with a chronic liver condition that Elena Valtaccia broke into the world's top 50. Her achievements as a player, which include reaching the last 32 of a Grand Slam on 3 occasions, were even more considerable when you appreciate the often debilitating condition she lived with. Valtaccia also represented Britain for 11 years in Fed Cup, and along with Anne Kiokovon, showed Laura Robson and Heather Watson what might be possible. She only officially retired from playing at the end of last year, just before marrying her former coach Nino Severino, who's been helping her develop the Elena Valtaccia Academy in Ipswich.
Researchers in the United States say they might have discovered how to combat and even reverse some effects of aging. Teams found that injecting the blood of young mice into older mice boosted their brain power and fitness. Scientists now want to carry out trials on humans. More details from Adrian Birch.
It may not be the answer of eternal life, but it seems young blood might hold the key to a healthier old age. Writing in the journal Nature Medicine, teams from Stanford University and the University of California describe how giving older mice blood transfusions from younger ones led to improved memory and learning and promoted the growth of nerve cells in their brains. The scientists say the work shows some age-related impairments aren't permanent and can be reversed. A separate team at Harvard University found a blood protein, GDF11, which peters out with age, improved the ability of older mice to exercise. The scientists now want to carry out trials in humans, and potentially people with degenerative disorders. Alzheimer's Research UK called the work interesting, but noted that the degeneration seen with the disease wasn't necessarily linked to aging.
Conciliation Service ACAS has invited the two sides in the London Underground dispute to talks this morning, hours before another planned walkout. A 3-day strike by RMT union members who protest at ticket office closures is due to begin at 9 o'clock this evening. 48-hour walkout last week caused widespread disruption. University researchers with a PhD in maths or physics are to be recruited to teach at schools in England under a new scheme backed by the government and major businesses. Activists say the programme, which begins in September, will raise standards and encourage more students to study the subjects. Jason Kay reports.
The government says workers with A-level maths earn on average 10% more than those without by the time they get to their 30s, and physics also leads to high-paying jobs. Free schools are already able to use experts from universities to teach their pupils, but under the new scheme, highly qualified researchers in maths and physics will be fully trained to work as teachers in non-selective schools on salaries of £40,000. A number of businesses, including banks, technology firms and pharmaceutical giants, will pay £75,000 each to fund a 3-year programme. The Education Minister, Elizabeth Truss, says top firms are sponsoring the scheme to help create the workers they will need in the future.
The Nigerian President, Goodluck Jonathan, has promised to secure the release of more than 200 schoolgirls kidnapped in the northeast of the country. Islamist militants are believed to have seized the girls 3 weeks ago. In his first public comment on their abduction, Mr. Jonathan said Nigerians were justified in expressing their anger against the government. Some of the parents spoke to the BBC about the wait for news for their daughters.
Since they were taken away, it's been very difficult for us. Many people come to our house during the day to sympathize with us. But then at night, our family stays awake all night, thinking of our daughter and all the other girls, and what they're going through, and where they're being held. It's really difficult for us.
Prosecutors in Ukraine have accused police of showing a blatant disregard for their duties after they freed more than 60 people detained during disturbances in the southern city of Odessa on Friday. The prosecutor's office said that it had not ordered their release, which happened after pro-Russia demonstrators attacked the police station where the detainees were being held. The city remains tense after a fire at a trade union building in which more than 40 people died.
The American drugs giant Pfizer will report financial results this morning, amid speculation that it will make a bid to buy the Anglo-Swedish company AstraZeneca. The British-based firm has flatly rejected the first two offers, saying that they substantially undervalue the business. Yesterday, the Labour leader Miliband said he was concerned about the implications of the deal. For views on large takeovers and mergers to be strengthened. Conservative chairman Ralph Schaff's accused him of being anti-business. A poll has pointed to overwhelming support for limits on how much sugar is added to certain foods. But the UK's largest sugar supplier has told Five Live, who commissioned the survey, that the product isn't solely to blame for the obesity crisis. 1,000 people questioned for the survey, and Bridge reports.
Many health campaigners have said too much sugar in the diet, often linked to processed foods, is a major cause of obesity and type 2 diabetes. Now a poll for the BBC suggests 73% of people in Britain would favour limits on the amount of sugar in certain products. But AB Sugar, who own the Silver Spoon brand, have told the BBC their product is being unfairly demonised. It says problems with obesity are caused by a lack of exercise and the consumption of too many calories overall, not just those from sugar. The poll also suggests 2/3 of people want a ban on fizzy drinks in schools. The sale of them is banned in local authority schools, but restrictions are currently voluntary for academies and preschools set up since 2010.
A violent armed robber nicknamed the Skullcracker has gone missing after he was temporarily allowed out of an open jail on the Isle of Sheppey in Kent. Michael Wheatley was given 13 life sentences at the Old Bailey in 2002 for raids on banks and building societies. Police say Wheatley, who's 55, shouldn't be approached.
It's now 9 minutes past 7. Nigeria's president, Goodluck Jonathan, has spoken publicly for the first time about the more than 200 teenage schoolgirls who were abducted almost 3 weeks ago. He's defended what the government and military have been doing since their disappearance, and promised to secure the release of the 180 or so who are still being held by Islamist militants from the group known as Boko Haram. Our Nigeria correspondent Will Ross joins us now from Abuja, and Will, he's faced some fairly severe criticism over his handling of this. Has he done enough now to reassure people?
I don't think he has, no. It was an extraordinary speech he gave, really. It was supposed to be a sort of press conference with selected journalists, but he gave very, very long answers where he spoke about the Air Force and the ground troops doing their best all over this area of northeast Nigeria, but he did make the extraordinary claim that they still haven't found the girls yet, and obviously there had been a lot of hope that maybe they'd been located, but because of the difficulty of rescuing them, because they're in the hands of these well-armed Islamist militants, maybe they're just not in because it might be too dangerous. But he actually said no, they haven't found them yet. But as we'll hear now, he does sound optimistic about a future rescue effort.
One good thing that is happening I believe most Nigerians are happy is that there's no story that any of them have been caught in terms of injured or that. I really subscribe and express my empathy for the parents and the relatives and of course the guardians of this girl. But let us reassure them that we'll get their daughters out.
We've obviously got a problem, Will. I'm not sure if you can hear us, but we're struggling to hear you. And I think we'll probably leave that there because we can't get a better line to you. But Will Ross in Abuja, thank you very much.
The time now, 11 minutes past 7.
Now, Jerry Adams is a free man this morning, released by police yesterday after 4 days of questioning about the murder of Jean McConville 40 years ago. It will now be down to the public prosecution